To order. Please join me in the pledge and the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, for warmer weather. We just pray that tonight as we work through the agenda, that you would give us wisdom and help us do what's right in your sight. So in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, and I believe there's someone that might want to make an amendment.
Mr. Mayor, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to add F2 for staff recognition item to the agenda, please.
Any comments, questions? We have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of F2.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of F2. Second.
Krista's made the motion, Naomi seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item D, citizen comments. Which one?
Here, your microphone. Oh, you've got one here. Okay, I can see that.
You really listened to her well. Okay. We'll just consider that the first citizen comment. So. If anyone would like that, we'll open citizen comments. 3 minutes to speak. We'll listen and we'll entertain and open citizen comments. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll close citizen comments. Ex parte conflict of interest declaration. It's just a chance for the council members to identify any conflicts that they might have in terms of visiting or discussing any items in tonight's agenda. Any issues?
None here.
None. We're good on that. Appointments, proclamations, recognitions, nominations. This evening, I would like to recommend that we appoint Pam Dayhoff to the Senior Advisory Board position. Pam was recommended by the Senior Board, and I think she'll make a great addition. I did tell her, but she has to make a 10-minute speech after this. But that's all. Not a hill for a climber and a teacher, former teacher. So I would make the motion that we approve that.
I second.
Krista seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Appreciate your willingness to serve. So,
Looking forward to it.
I think this is your second time in here in the last month, right?
I have been here a few times.
You're up here getting recognized for a few things, so congratulations.
All right, so for F2, I'll just go ahead and kick that off if you don't mind. Citizens of Goddard City Council, within our midst, we have someone who was recently recognized by the Wichita Business Journal for CFO of the Year. And tonight, what we would like to do is recognize you publicly for this. So, City Council, Mayor, would you like to join me up front, and would you like to please join us up front?
I think that's easy.
Right, Carol.
I have nothing to do with this.
we'll go down in front.
Gosh.
We'll come to you, Brooke.
Brooke here is kind of a big deal to get recognized in the Business Journal. I hope that you guys all read the article. But we bought you a few things to recognize you.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
So, Miss Ash says CF no, because
Greg has told us many times that she says no, so it does say CFO.
Now, the question is this the best picture that's, there's another picture?
There's a better one out there.
Okay, well, I almost,
Okay, well, thank you. You're hilarious.
oh, and then there's probably one other thing we should do, since we got a couple other things.
So we did see in the article that your favorite pastime in a day is to walk along the trail and eat a big breakfast at Homegrown.
Yep.
So there you have a Homegrown business card, and then some flowers.
Well, thanks.
With some sunflowers.
I've done this sometimes with seniors in high school, but all hail the CFO. 1, 2, 3.
All hail the CFO.
Congratulations. Yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna wear it around the office tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, really.
You can wear that all week. The sash and tiara, the whole thing.
Wow. Thank you guys.
We just loved public recognition. We like being the spotlight, so.
Lovely.
I did mention to the other four that, after we did this, we had to get back on with the agenda, so I think we're okay with that, so
Moving on.
moving on. Item G, consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Chris has made the motion, Corey seconds, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Very good, we got that. No unfinished business. That moves us on to I-1. Mr. Crossett.
Mayor and City Council, your City Administrator Craig Crossett here. It's my pleasure to be the first one up on new business for this evening's council meeting. We've got several action items related to this project. It's the Goddard City Center / Evan Building Company Development Agreement. We do have an agent for the applicant, Hunter Lemunyan with Petra, as well as Mr. Bill Johnson, the owner-developer for the project, are with us this evening, and I'm sure they'd be glad to share any conversation with you should you like to make an inquiry with them. So just a quick background here on this project. So we've had a development agreement proposal that came from Evans Building Company for their light industrial / commercial project. It's near Goddard City Center. So all the acreage north of the pipeline around Casey's, with the exception of one lot, if you're wondering the general area. Project consists of a construction of approximately 45,000 square feet of new building space to support industrial, manufacturing, warehouse, distribution, flex space, and/or office uses, with an estimated $5.7 million in private investment here in our community. The development agreement that was attached in your agenda packet establishes the terms under which Evans Building Co. will construct the project, and the city could provide certain industrial revenue bond related incentives to facilitate development. Per the agreement, you'll see the recitals in Article 4. We can issue IRBs to allow the sales tax exemption on the construction materials for the cost of constructing this facility, and there is a declining property tax abatement schedule on the property for up to 10 years. So you will have seen the fiscal impact analysis statute requires that when cities issue industrial revenue bonds, they must have a benefit analysis conducted. We typically use Wichita State University's Center for Economic Development and Business Research. In there you can see they highlight the $5.7 million capital investment, a very conservative estimation on the new jobs. I believe they came up with that 25 number by simply taking the square footage of the facility and dividing it equally, and then assuming I think it's 5 jobs per space. So that could be wildly varying. I think 25 is relatively conservative as far as a benefit input is concerned. They come up with the estimated payroll based on the types of jobs that they feel could be included in the space, along with the quantity of jobs. So this represents new commercial activity and employment growth within the Goddard City Center area, supports Goddard's broader goal of expanding the tax base and activating the corridor, which we'll look at the Goddard business plan and the goals that are outlined in it later. I think this is well aligned with it. As we look at the property tax abatement, It comes out to 75% over 10 years. It's front loaded a little bit to help with risk premium on their front end investment as they work to fill this space. I think that one of the things that staff likes to mention whenever we're contemplating an IRB and a property tax abatement is it's important to note that right now that is an empty field generating absolutely zero economic value to our community. This project, although there'll be a level of abatement for sales and property taxes initially, it will provide an immediate economic benefit as well as a significant economic benefit over a 10 and 20-year term. You'll see the standard municipal protections that our bond counsel Kevin Cowan and city attorney Ryan Peck typically include in our development agreements for some protections for the city and accountability for the project and remedies if performance obligations are not met. Guess I should advance the slides. One of the other, probably the primary importance as we look at issuing these types of incentives is the benefit cost ratio. Anything over a 1.0 is a benefit to the city over the cost. So you'll see in the first 10 years about a 32% return on investment over cost. And then obviously in the long term, over 20 years, about 117% benefit over cost. So again, anything greater than 1 indicates the project generates more public revenue than public cost over the analysis period, which we look at the 10 and 20-year increments. Our legal team has approved this to form, and the staff would recommend that the council approve the development agreement attached in Exhibit A and authorize Mayor George W. Lieb to execute the agreement. So I'd be glad to take any questions. As I mentioned earlier, we have agent for the applicant, Hunter Lemunion with Petra, as well as Mr. Johnson himself, the owner and developer.
Questions?
I don't have any questions. I just, we went and looked at the building concept that you have out north, and I thought it was real nice. It's not just your typical building, so I'm pretty excited about the project, and I really love that we've done this benefit cost ratio and how you walked us through that earlier today and how that works, because I think anytime that we talk about IRBs, going forward, that it's important for us to do this and understand how that works and how we get that return on investment. And so thanks, Craig, for walking us through that. I know that's important when we're talking about IRBs, but for me, I think this is a pretty exciting project. And so I know we've kind of been talking about it for a while, so it's exciting.
Corey, you have any comments?
Yeah, I guess I'd just say I think this one has been moving pretty quickly, but I think it's been efficient, and I think we've done a good job. Hopefully, you guys are impressed with the way Craig's been able, and the team have been able to help execute on this one. So I just say good job to everyone involved in this.
I would echo that and just say that this is something really exciting for Goddard. Not too long ago we heard how industrial is really important for Goddard, and so I think that this is a really big win for us, a really big project, and so I'm excited to see what you guys do with it. And
I'll make a motion to move to approve the development agreement attached to Exhibit A and authorize Mayor Lee to execute the agreement.
A second.
Corey's made the motion, Krista seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Appreciate it. Looking forward to watching that thing pop up off the ground. So.
Me too.
Thanks, everybody.
Mr. Mayor, as we approach this next agenda, I'm going to phone the consultant and conference her in that represents the firm.
All right. Chief, how are you this evening?
I am great. How are you guys? Good. So while we're waiting for her to pick up the phone, this agenda item is about the proposal for consultants for emergency operation and continuity of our operational plans. Do you want to tell them who she is?
Yes, on the line we have Erica Carter, who represents the firm that staff is recommending to the council for the emergency operation and continuity plan. She represents iParametrics.
So, as a little bit of background on this issue, the City of Goddard's current emergency operations plan is a minimal, basic document that does not adequately reflect the city's current structure, organizationally, and operational capabilities, or the best practices in modern emergency management. As our community continues to grow and municipal operations become more complex, it is imperative that the city maintain a comprehensive, actionable, and compliant emergency and continuity plans to ensure life safety, continuity of services, and coordinated response during disasters or major events. To strengthen the city's preparedness posture, we've solicited proposals from 4 qualified firms to provide the following services: update and expand the existing emergency operations plan, develop an initial continuity of operations plan, and create a quarterly training and exercise plan, as well as prepare documentation to facilitate the city's first 4 exercises. 2 firms of those 4 submitted proposals, iParametrics and Emergency Management Partners, EM Partners. iParametrics is who we are recommending. They are a national consulting firm, specializing in emergency management, resilience, continuity, and operational readiness for public and private sector organizations. The firm supports jurisdictions and institutions across the country and by delivering practical standards-based training, planning, and exercises that strengthen preparedness, improve coordination, and support effective leadership decision-making during complex incidents. Staff have conducted a Microsoft Teams meeting with iParametrics, who we've on the phone with, leadership to review their approach, confirm understanding of the city's needs, and evaluate project fit. iParametrics comes highly recommended from Sedgwick County Emergency Management, which I feel is very important. The scope of work we're wanting them to do, if approved, is the city's existing emergency operations plan will undergo a comprehensive review and refinement process to ensure it's accurately reflecting current operations, our governance structures, and our risk considerations for what we have here in Goddard. The effort will improve clarity, usability, and operational relevance, and so the plan can effectively guide decision-making and coordination during emergencies. The update will align with EOP with current city functions, staffing, and infrastructure, incorporate updated hazard, threat, and vulnerability considerations, clarify leadership roles, authorities, and coordination mechanisms, strengthen integration with regional, state, and federal partners, and follow nationally recognized emergency management standards and best practices. Scope of work continued. Following the completion of the EOP update, the city will establish a structured quarterly training and exercise program to ensure the plan is remain familiar, relevant, and operational. It will reinforce the roles and responsibilities outlined in the EOP, emphasize leadership, decision-making, and interdepartmental coordination, use realistic scenarios to test procedures, and document lessons learned and incorporate improvements into the future plan updates. EM Partners proposes a comprehensive planning, training, and exercise effort aligned with FEMA, NIMS, and HC standards. Their team highlights national experience and extensive staffing capacity. While EM Partners does offer strong credentials and national experience, their cost significantly exceeds available budget capacity for this project. Financially, costs will be allocated to the general fund discretionary line item, miscellaneous consultant fund 10-10-8530. iParametrics is who we are recommending at $34,780, not to exceed. EM Partners would be 99, just shy of 100,000, not to exceed. Pending reviews, legal considerations there. If approved, the staff will enter into a contract with the selected firm referencing the submitted proposal and the city's mandatory contract provisions. It is recommended that the city move to accept the proposal from iParametrics, seen attached in Exhibit A, and authorize city staff to enter into an agreement for the scope of services pending final legal review. Any questions on that, or do you have any questions for the representative from iParametrics? To sum it up, it would take a big burden of time and effort, and not having expertise in that, we're summoning someone who deals with that, is professional, they're also local, and I think it would be very well used funds.
I think it's important not to, while we want community input, from officers, I think it's important to have somebody that is not inundated with the day-to-day of Goddard, and having that kind of persuade the way that you put your plan together.
Yeah, and we will still have input as to giving guidance as to what we are made up of, what we have, what we can do, and what we've done in the past for certain situations. They're just bringing a large portfolio to the table.
I don't have questions, but I do just want to share this. This is something that I have shared with Craig several times. I think that if there is anything that, we do here, this is one of the most important things. I think that it's human nature for a lot of people to operate on the basis of, well, if it happens, or that will never happen to me. And for those of you who know me, like, it can happen to you, and it will if you're not careful. And I think that it's really important, not only at the end of the day that we as the city have a plan in place, and Craig and I talked about this today. I have no doubt that if a tornado blew through here tomorrow, or we had a mass casualty, in a local business, that our officers in our city and the staff would pull together and they would get this done. However, I think that this is also about making sure that our community is prepared and that they understand that we have a plan in place. And I also think that in it's human nature in instances like that, you do not know how you're going to react, fight or flight. And I think it's really important to have a very well documented plan in place for our officers and their safety, for our staff and their safety, for any volunteers that we have. I know we've got like emergency weather planning classes and things coming up, but just making sure that we have something in place that tells our community that we do take their safety seriously, and that we're prepared should the unthinkable happen.
And it aligns with specifics that boxes need more than just being checked off for FEMA standards. And
right. We're not just doing the bare minimum. Yeah.
I guess I would like to ask Erica if she could kind of maybe just give us a little timeline summary of the process, how long it'll take.
I think she said a week.
Yeah.
Okay, she's listening.
Yeah, well, you got her attention.
Make sure she was listening.
Yeah, thanks for that. So thank you so much. This is Erica Carter. It typically takes between 6 and 12 months to write a plan. And part of the reason for that, to the councilwoman's point there, is that we really want to make sure that we're eliciting feedback from the community and that we're making sure that this plan is reflective of the city of Goddard and the way that you all operate and the resources that you have there. And so we're looking at about that for our timeline. Obviously, depending on some of the other things that the community has going on, we will make sure that we are flexible to what your needs are in that way.
Erica, this is Craig. I think when we talked, we thought probably the better part of this year it would take for us to complete the plan. And one of the things we asked is if we could not really start until 1st of March, because February is teed up pretty well already with other to-dos. And so kind of have that initial kickoff meeting in March, and then take what we think could be the better part of the year to complete the process. Because the final work product will be very comprehensive, couple of documents, and as Erica shared, there'll be some community engagement aspects of this which take time. So this isn't going to be quick, but it will be diligent.
Well, I know in some of the conversations we've had about this that we have a pretty high reliance on Sedgwick County's emergency preparedness group, and I think this will help document how that handshake and how that fits in an emergency process. And as the city continues to grow, it's important that we continue to expand and develop the processes and things that we're responsible for. And I think this is just another part of the growth of our community. I think Craig told me we've just wiped out the consulting budget for the year with this, so.
There's a little bit left.
There's no,
Work over there.
no. CFO said no. Anyway, but, I do think, I mean, this is a really basic block and tackling, and it's one of those things, it's only important when you need it. And so, I'm just appreciative that, you know, you've worked on this, and this is kind of another step forward in the growth of our community, so.
Mayor, I want to add one other thing, if you'd allow it, and I appreciate Councilwoman White's comments, in that she, and I think the governing body, and hopefully most of the community would agree that, they do trust that we're ready and prepared today as is. You know, we are going to, trainings all throughout the year. In fact, we had an all senior staff, training on, senior appointed officials for disaster preparedness and response, at the Sedgwick County Extension Office just a couple of months ago. So we try to hit those a few times a year, so it's always fresh. So we are training on this stuff. You know, we just went through a pretty mild weather event, but that kind of gets the wheels turning on response and preparedness to some degree. So while we know we could handle disasters today, again, we need this to be on the books. That way we can build public confidence, and that our citizens and everyone knows that there is a plan in place, and we can just point them to it. And it gives us something to practice internally, which is something I'm really excited about. I want to do tabletop exercises quarterly, but you don't see that happening in a lot of communities, especially those of our size. So we'll be one of the better prepared communities when it comes to preparedness and response after this process is over.
And this has been a topic of discussion with the Western Sedgwick County mayors here recently, so the whole idea of sharing resources across communities, I think that's another important aspect of this, is that to be able to support each other, whether it's in Cheney or Andale, Garden Plain, Mountain Hope, Coolidge. So anyway.
I just have one more comment, and I'm kind of throwing this out of left field because this is not something I mentioned earlier, but it is something that I kind of thought on. I think the only thing that I would ask upon approving this is, at the end of this, and maybe this is something that's definitely already in the works, is that we do some sort of community engagement at the very end of this, so that our community is prepared should a tornado come through, or should a mass casualty come through, or something happens, that they understand the pieces of the plan that they need to know. You know, we just watched Andover. Thank God that this was not worse for them a few years ago, but just having that in place for our community, anyone who wants to know knows, hey, if this happens, like, here's kind of our hub, here's our game plan on where you can go if you don't have cell service or you don't have internet, and we can't get those updates out to you on Facebook. And so I think that would be my only request, is that we just make sure we're engaging them at the end of this, and that they're gaining something from this too.
Absolutely.
Any other comments?
While we got Eric on, maybe she could just speak to one question I had on reading through the proposal. It says costs of the travel will be passed through directly to the city, and any travel will be approved to the city prior before scheduling. Is there no plan to have anyone come visit here? It's all remote?
So we did talk about this a bit during our team's call. I would like Erica to be in person at least 3 or 4 times during this process, but I think a big amount of it can be done remotely. Well, we shared that she's local. Local is a relative term. Compared to the other 4 firms, she is local. She's in the Kansas City area. So the cost of travel is probably quite minimal compared to if we were flying someone in and putting them up overnight, so to speak. So I would think that, I'm just gonna guess, no more than a couple $1,000 for the mileage, and then if we have to put her up, you know, overnight a few times, and that's probably being conservative with that number. You know, we could feed her while she's here, but I guess some of these would probably be during lunch.
You know, that sounds like an absolute win to me, yeah. And we just need to talk to KDOT about keeping the turnpike prices low, and you know, we'll pass the savings right on.
We'll get right on that.
Great, thanks, I appreciate it.
was gonna say, I know some shortcuts to get around those KDOT charges coming from Kansas City, so.
They're not very short though.
I'm about to say, an extra
There's
10
Metro
miles.
for ya, and then.
Then take 50 on down to 77.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's the scenic route.
Probably gets paid by the hour.
Yeah, she wants to get her and get home.
It's not like the speed limit is 35 miles an hour out there, running at 65. And I'm sure you wouldn't speed, so.
Are we good?
Are we good?
I
Okay.
make a motion to move to accept the proposal from iParametrics seen attached in Exhibit A and authorize city staff to enter to an agreement for the scope of services pending final legal review.
I second.
Krista made the motion, Amanda seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much.
You guys vote for Cindy. Okay. Russ Sloan is representing us on the Sedgwick County Fire Advisory Board. Will you give us an update?
All right, very good. So, I'll keep this under 45 minutes for sure. What is the Fire Council? What's its purpose? What does it do? You guys are new to some of this as well. We advise our county commissioners at the root of our purpose, but we also fill in gaps, because how many county commissioners live in Goddard? Anybody? Zero. That's the way that is. There's a lot of places that, they cover the entire county, and there's a lot of towns, townships, people, private properties that are in or out of fire district. So we have representation through locals. I happen to be a business owner. I own real estate here and operate a business, so that makes me qualified to serve in this voluntary position. And the board is made up of nothing but volunteers.
How many members?
It's 9.
9, okay.
That said, examples of topics that we've worked on or things that we've supported. First and foremost is, what does the Fire Advisory Council do? And we kind of had to define that. We have our rules and minutes, our kept, it's open meetings, Record Act, applies to all of this. So anything that we talk about or anything we do is fully public information. It's nothing that's done in a silo or anything like that. I'll just hit some of the big stuff that we've tackled or attempt to have influence over, and again, purely an advisory role. We've talked about budgeting and tried to understand how that process works. We brought in the CFO from county, and it's some wonderful presentations to really talk about how all that happens and the process that goes through when Chief Williams needs equipment, or they need more personnel, or the budget crisis, or the emergencies happen, stuff like that. How does all that flow and happen? So that's more of an iterative learning process for everyone involved, but it's starting to produce fruit, if you will, that we have knowledge that we can better leverage our advice to county commissioners. Another big issue with the rank and file. They have a union. They are not recognized by county commissioners, and that's neither here nor there, but their request is that they are to be recognized. And we've gone back and forth on that and what advice that we've given commissioners and so on. I think that there's a lot of discussion to happen on that. More recent and probably the most profound that's impacted me the most is mutual aid agreements within the county and what that looks like. Our neighbors outside of here, not just because a town, township, or city is within Sedgwick County, it doesn't mean that they're in fire district. There's a lot of history, a lot of emotional history, a lot of pride in in outlying towns. At one time, I'm sure Wichita and Goddard, all we had was volunteer fire departments, which a lot of these outlying towns have, or they have kind of a hybrid, maybe a few people that are hired, that are full-time, but the majority being volunteer. I said the words mutual aid, and it's kind of, this is a critical one that we kind of had to really define and understand, and Chief Williams was great for helping our education in this. And mutual aid, loosely defined, is if you represent town A and you represent town B, you all have about the same amount and the same type of equipment and the same type of training, it's mutual. But if your entire town were engulfed in flames, your equipment's not going to do it, but yours could come help to do that. It's mutual, and it's a give and a take. Some of our challenges is with some of our smaller towns or townships that are not in fire districts, is the concept of mutual aid has fallen farther and farther apart. If you only have a truck, if you only have a garden hose, it's not really equitable, it's not mutual, it's not on the same playing field, and maybe all of your staff and volunteers are fully trained to the same level as full-time staff in, say, like, I use Wichita as an example, or Sedgwick County Fire. All of those operators are trained extensively. It's very difficult for anyone in any organization in a volunteer scenario to have that level of credentialing and training, and that type of stuff is becoming much more recognized and looked at. Everybody here, within city limits of Goddard, and well, say city limits of Goddard because we're in fire district. Mm-hmm. We all pay fire district mill levies. We recently were able to lower them by 2 points, which was great. That's a good thing. And there's math reasons why all that was able to come out. But get back to the there's a component in all of this that is going to hurt some of these outlying communities and towns. One of them being everybody gets ranked on a scale of 1 to 10 with an ISO rating. I believe we're an 8 right now, which is really, really good where we're at. Where before, a mutual aid entity, we'll call them, can kind of piggyback on our ranking and capabilities to achieve their ISO rating so that their number could be up. It may not be an 8, but maybe it makes it to a 5 or a 6 or what have you. So what does ISO do? Insurance companies look at this, they either reference it. I don't know of an insurance company that doesn't at least reference it. Others live and die by it. And if you look at the coastlines, West Coast, East Coast, panhandles, they look at that ISO much more seriously than they ever have. Go to California. Everyone's heard about California fires and so on. Some of their ISO ratings have tanked because they didn't have everything that they needed for the types of fires that they can have. Well, ISO goes in and looks at what is your training? Who showed up at the fire to go help them? What was their training? What equipment came there? Was it the right equipment? You could have 100 people show up, but if they're not trained and valid in what they're doing, it doesn't count. And that's from a dollars and cents standpoint. If I'm big executive insurance company, I want to know what the capabilities are in the area to control fire and to respond and for all the emergencies. And I'm going to charge accordingly. I can tell you this, it's coming here. These rankings are being reevaluated. They do it about every 4 years, and we're a couple of years into it. So some of these smaller entity towns that have been kind of piggybacking on Sedgwick County's capabilities, who are not in fire district, they're not in fire district. That means they don't pay fire district. You do, all of you do, I do, so that they don't have to. This is the big deal. It's a big financial consideration, and honestly, its time has come. My recommendation and the board's, or the advisory council's recommendation to county commissioners and to Chief Williams was very simple. All the smaller communities, we're going to give you an arbitrary date, whatever date they decide, say January 1 of 2027. You're either in fire district or you're not. And if you're not, you're on your own. So here's some financial considerations. We have Sedgwick County Firehouse sitting right over here. Everyone's familiar with that. It's what, $3.5 million a year to operate that. If City Council decided that they wanted to take that over, you couldn't do it for that price. It's a shared expense throughout the county with all the mill levies and so on. And we just couldn't afford it. It would be much more expensive than that. All of these municipalities, townships, cities, they're all facing that reality. I'll close with this for questions, any questions if you have any. A neighboring county just went through this exact process. Took them about 1.5 years, Reno County. They went to every entity that was involved, gave them their options, gave them a timeline as to when this was going to happen. And the emotions that were involved were, it'll be a cold day in heck before we come into fire district. Well, where we sat as of January 1 of this year, every single entity, township, community, town, all came into fire district. They all had the financial considerations that they had to look at. It was by far cheaper to come into the fire district. And on top of that, it's fair to the people who have been paying, who've been footing the bill. Everyone in Goddard is footing the bill for somebody else. It's not that I don't look at it as an evil thing. We should help our neighbors. But there's help, and there's more help, and there's more help, and then there's taking advantage of a financial situation. They're still our neighbors, they're still our friends, they're still our family, but we need to come to a new level of understanding and a new way of operating and doing business. And if they want to do it on their own, so be it. They'll still be our family, still be our friends, still be our neighbors. Close with that.
Russ, I know I've had an opportunity to go to some of these meetings, and there's the history and the emotion is one thing, but there's also a real issue about safety for volunteer fire departments, and over time, the number of people that will respond. And Sedgwick County has, sends their people out, but if 2 or 3 people in that community that they're going out to help based on their mutual aid agreement, who's in charge, there's a lot of issues that will be cleared up. And I think the big thing after that last meeting is everybody talked about the issues. The insurance issue for these small communities is probably the reality of having to face much higher insurance rates if they're out on their own. And
They'll even insure them.
well, they will for a price.
I kind of think of like the Palisades. You mentioned California, and a lot of them were dropped because of their fire risk. Their fire insurance was dropped.
So this is an issue that the county's taking care of, and appreciate your service and your input. Takes time, and like everything, pretty complex issues. You guys have any other questions?
I do have a question. So in the Reno County example, if they all decide to go into the fire district, what happens with the firehouses that were volunteer?
All that has to be detailed, worked out. It's tedious. But Chief Williams and commissioners, they have plans. There's a lot of strings attached to, is this a donated firehouse? What is the equipment even serviceable to the standards at which the Sedgwick County Fire is held to? Is it rented? Is it even adequate to do the job when you bring it up to standard and you put the amount of people that it needs to have there? Can you even do it? So there's a tremendous amount of logistical
Right.
strings to work through in all of this.
And the additional services of EMS, I mean, over time, people have higher expectations
Right.
in those rural communities. I just thought real quickly in the 6 class 2 cities in the ring around Wichita, Bel Air, Goddard, Hayesville, Mays, Park City, all are part of the county. Valley Center and Mulvane have their own fire departments. I think Mulvane kind of has half their people there part-time, or part of the county, they're not fully staffed 24/7. Then you've got Andale, Bentley, Garden Plain, Keachite, and Viola all are part of the county fire process, and then Cheney, Clearwater, Colwich, Eastboro, that's an interesting one. Mount Hope and Sedgwick have their own fire departments. So there is kind of it's in terms of number of cities, it's about, the smaller cities, there's a majority of them that are still operating with the volunteers. So.
I have 2 quick questions. One, we talk a lot about financials, and we're not the only place that talks about, taxes and what that looks like. When we kind of talk about insurance going up and the price of these homeowners and some of these other places will potentially be paying, do you feel like, as far as taxes go, that being a part of the county and paying into that tax could inevitably be cheaper for them than, looking at what their insurance would go for?
If you follow any of the models on the coastlines, it's substantially cheaper to pay mill levy than it is the insurance hit that you're going to take. It's coming. And again, it depends on which insurance company that you're dealing with and who their underwriters are. They all reference it, ISO. They all reference that. Some live and die by it, and others it's it's part of the equation.
Okay.
So you're going to see some differences, but at the end of the day, up is the only thing that I'm able to derive out of all of this. That's the only direction that it's going, versus maybe up a little and holding and being in check.
And now, if we happen to have neighboring communities, which it sounds like, other places have tried this and they've kind of run the costs, but should a neighboring community decide it's still just not for them, at that point, is there like a level of incident that would still call our fire out to them or our EMS out to them? I think like fire gets called out for EMS all the time for accidents and other things. Like, is there a line there where they say, hey, this is a critical?
It is my understanding that there's always mutual aid throughout the state, but that happens at the state level. And then that can come down, and then you can kind of cross-pollinate those resources. That's not changing. But the day-to-day,
would not be.
My garage is on fire. That's going to have to be handled at the local level if you're on your own. And they'll have to come up with their own mutual aids, which whoever they're working with, other municipalities, they could just say no. We're not interested in mutual aid. Because at the end of the day, if we cleared this firehouse out to go help someone who really isn't in a mutual aid true scenario, and George's house catches on fire, and now it's an extra 15 minutes for someone else to come to put his house fire out, I don't think George can be real happy. I wouldn't be.
So the wife would get a whole new set of furniture.
And something positive on this.
So I guess follow up to my last question a little bit is, with the Reno County example, and if we were looking at something like that for Sedgwick County, where, like you said, Clearwater and Cheney, I think, have their own, if they get that option to either continue their own or come into fire district, if they both decided to come in, does the Sedgwick County Fire District look at whether or not they can actually respond to those two outlying cities?
Absolutely.
Okay, because otherwise, would they need to potentially add a firehouse
all
Because-
that's being looked at and evaluated. They have that type of stuff now, but again, they're gonna have to normalize that to the standards of which Sedgwick County operates.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Are they already doing that? Are they already responding? Is Sedgwick County already responding to those two
Yes.
communities
Yes.
without?
And to a large extent, you're paying for it.
Yes, okay.
And they're not paying the fire district mills at all.
So they're pretty much just, if this were to go into place, they would kind of get rid of those mutual aid agreements, which it sounds like that needs to happen. Like, I think that's good for the city of Goddard, what you're recommending, because, when we have people that talk about our resources being strained because of the growth, well, it's not really growth that's straining it, because Sedgwick County, right, knows what they're doing when it comes to like this much radius per firehouse. It's really the communities that are using us for mutual aid but not paying the taxes and therefore not getting their own resources that would really strain it. I mean, the growth probably has a little bit to do with it, but as we continue to grow, this only becomes more important
Yes, agreed.
for us, you know, because those resources are already being used twice as much, or there's twice as much housing and homes that they need to cover. And so I'm grateful to you for being on this board and making a great recommendation for the city of Goddard, because I think it makes sense to me, you know.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time on it.
Thanks for doing
Yes,
this.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right,
We'll let you come back some other time.
very good.
Russ, thank you. How long you've been on the board? You've been on that thing for
It's
Two
coming
and
up
a half?
on about two.
okay, so I was thinking
Around the
4
same
years.
time.
4-year deal, so, yeah. Well, appreciate your time you're investing on our behalf, thank you.
Yes,
Of course,
thank you.
thank you.
All right. Next item.
Oh, what's Satchel?
Guess what's back?
Fun times.
Our favorite yellow and blue sheets.
Yeah. So this is new to a couple of you. I don't know if you were a part of the CIP planning process that we did last year, but this is kind of we call this our matrix. So I gave everybody one of these. This is kind of the Excel spreadsheet that we work off of each year. Started it last year, and so basically what Craig and I and Jason have done is sit down and tried to review our 10-year plan based on what we did in 2025 and what we want to do in 2026, and then start working through the budget and kind of looking at all the projects that we put onto this plan last year. There are some additions, some things that we moved around, some things that we combined, but at the end of the day, we need to determine that we're in agreement with these changes to the CIP. And at a future council meeting, we will come back with a resolution for you to adopt. So, to get started, Craig and I are going to tag team this presentation. I'm going to do the first half, and then he's going to do the annual goal setting session portion. Our agenda for today, we will talk about why the CIP changes are needed, and then we'll go through each one of the different subcategories that we had, and we'll highlight the changes that we made so you will be aware of what we've kind of adjusted. We've added a new section, which we've talked about kind of intermittently when Kevin has come and asked us to adopt a resolution to include certain developer projects into the CIP to protect our debt limit. So we went ahead and added a section in this so we can kind of keep track of those things as well. And then we'll talk about, what's being asked to approve. Craig's going to go through an overview of the goal setting session, our adaptive goals, the old ones and new ones, our carryover projects, our 2026 action goals, and then question and any council directions that you would like to provide to that. So, why are CIP changes needed? We need to update cost estimates and project phasing. So, this is a guide that's always changing, so, we want to come back annually and make sure that we're up to date with this. So, there's been some cost estimates that's changed that, time changes and we've got some better numbers in those. One of the things that we've kind of omitted last time around was if we have a big project that we're planning for into the future, we need to factor in probably the year before or 2 years before some engineering costs and design costs. So kind of a rough estimate that we put in there that's just kind of common is about 10% of the project cost. So you will see those additions added into the CIP in years prior to some of those larger projects, and we'll talk about that in a second. Project schedule adjusted to align with readiness and funding. So that just tells you that we have decided this project doesn't really have the funding right now. We're going to push it down the road, or maybe we wanted to bring it up because something changed. New growth-related and utility infrastructure needs added. We identified a few different projects that need to be added in. Nothing in 2026, I believe, but everything in 2027 and future. So we put it on this list hoping that, you know, when we go through our budget planning process, that's going to be key to setting our 2027 budget. And then, like I already mentioned, we added the new developer projects just to protect our debt capacity. So under the administrative and facility project updates, these are the changes that we wanted to highlight from the last time this policy was adopted. Our comprehensive plan, which we all know fell out of the budget number, so we wanted to at least update that on our list here. We expect it to be closer to probably like 180, but I just went ahead and factored in 100,000 this year and 100,000 next year, just to give us a little bit of room in that. And you can see on the matrix, I kind of estimated based on the plan that they gave us in the comp plan, just kind of juggling those costs out to kind of equal out 180,000 for those 2 years. In the library and senior center expansion projects, we went ahead and combined those projects into one. The senior center was an addition to our CIP late last year. We didn't have a cost estimate ready for that, and we still don't have one, but we went ahead and combined, you know, the library and senior center expansion costs together and added in $600,000 of engineering and design in 2028. So that was something that we did not factor in. Like I said, those engineering and design costs, we're going to start putting that on the schedule. We did not change the total cost of the project. So, you know, that's still up in the air, and it's still out just a little bit to 28 and 29. We can true those up when we start getting closer to those years. City Hall modernization, we added $100K in 2030 to account for the engineering and design, and then added engineering design as well for the police and municipal court facility of $1.9 million. That's quite a bit for, but it is a large project. So, you know, again, 10% of those costs are things that we need to consider.
Brooke, could I add
Yep.
a little color to this?
Sure.
So the timing of all of this is really contingent upon the amortization or the maturing, or in more simple terms, when the STAR bonds are paid off. There's a couple of variables involved in when that may be. I think the best case scenario is probably end of 2028, and at that point we unlock roughly $1 million a year that is currently unallocated towards anything. It's just an extra $1 million a year that we'll have that could be utilized to finance around $12 to $15 million worth of capital projects. The thought is that we could utilize that to service debt on the library / senior center and the police station and one very large general obligation bond. I do not believe that the $1 million a year in additional sales tax revenue that will come online will be enough to pay for those. I'll just call them 2 projects. I think there is a capability to have the library and senior center in one facility. That's not uncommon. City of Derby had done that for a number of years, but now they have a separate senior center. Other communities do that, and I think there's a priority to try to keep those facilities downtown, and for that to be a real feasibility, you probably need them in the same building. So I don't think the sales tax revenue alone is going to cover it. The council will have to make a difficult decision as to whether they want to ask the public to pay an additional sales tax, maybe a quarter or a half cent or more, to combine with that additional $1 million a year in sales tax revenue that will come off the STAR bond, or look at the mill levy. I personally, this is my opinion, being a few years away, would speculate that it would be more sensible to look at asking the public to approve maybe a half-cent sales tax for these very specific projects that would have clear plan identified. We'd already have preliminary concept designs. There would be confidence that that funding would be going towards those specific needs. The reason I would prefer a sales tax versus increasing the mill levy is because Goddard is a regional tourism attraction. When you consider the 30,000 vehicles a day that drive through our community, the several 100,000 visitors that come to Tanganyika Wildlife Park, and the nearly 1 million visitors that go to the Genesis Sports Complex every year. All of those people that are visiting our community can help pay for these things. To me, that is much more palatable than asking the rooftops to increase property tax allocation. Well, let's let the people coming to Goddard help us pay for our needs. So all of this is why we look at the CIP and review every year, because while I think today the best case scenario is the STAR bond matures or is paid off at the end of 2028, it could be 29 or 2030. So we'll be back here every year just kind of fine tuning this. So that's just some insider baseball, so to speak, as far as how staff is thinking we might pay for some of these things. It really is contingent upon the STAR bonds being paid off, unlocking that really large source of sales tax revenue, and then the citizens will have to seriously contemplate how badly they want these projects and if they would vote themselves to approve maybe another half cent worth of sales tax to combine with the STAR bond sales tax revenue to service the annual debt on the police station and the library/senior center. The City Hall modernization, that comes at the very tail end of all of this. Because of the way phasing would need to work, we would need to have the police station built and operational, and then we would be capable of moving our staff throughout this entire building. They would need to be gone first, right?
Yeah.
So again, speculating, we're a few years out from all this, but this is kind of how we are thinking it could unfold in the next 3 to 5 years.
I want to add a few things to that. I would like to see the preliminary work on the police station split into two sections, and the first part of that work, and maybe not dollar for dollar, but start that in 2027. I think I would prioritize the police station ahead of the library and the senior center expansion. The $1 million, based on current interest rates, would generate about $13.6 million in bond indebtedness. Another $260,000 would get you another $3.4 million. So $1,260,000, you could borrow basically $17 million. And so that project, I believe, could be completed without increasing property tax or the sales tax. And I think it's important. I mean, half of our budget is tied up in police protection. I know we talk about our public works facility being embarrassing. I think the staff and where the police station is working out of that small space is really kind of embarrassing too. Yeah. And so I would maybe look at that money from the STAR bond and identify that as the potential for getting the police station done, and we can start on that a little sooner. I think that I know there's interest in the community for senior center and a library. I mean, they're both, the library's a tremendous facility. I saw the numbers that Terry put out today, a lot of activity. The senior center activity has been tremendous. We've got through a little blip with the meals, but I think in terms of prioritization, there's a way to do the police station without the 1 cent or half-cent sales tax, and that doesn't preclude us from making that an opportunity, but it's going to take a community involvement. The other issue as it relates to that is 2/3 of the people that use the library come basically from within the school district, and there's nothing right or wrong in any of this. We've got some people coming to the senior activities that are outside the city as well. No right or wrong to that, but I think that we owe it to our staff to have adequate working spaces, and right now our police department has woefully enacted that area is inadequate, and I think we should be a little embarrassed about that. So anyway.
I would say more than a little, and I would also just say that it's inadequate right now with the amount of officers that you have working in there. We got to do a tour a few weeks ago. Mortifying, but also as we're talking about Goddard growing and just how quickly we're growing and the amount of officers that you could need over the next few years, if it's inadequate now and we're talking about adding 1, 2, 3 more officers at a minimum like that, yeah, I would agree with that sentiment that they need a bigger space.
I really appreciate untethering a core service from a ballot issue. I think it's appropriate that we're able to do that with the sales tax that we're already would already be receiving when the Star Bond pays off. So to me, this makes a lot of sense, Mayor, and if the rest of City Council agrees with you, I think it's a great way to move forward. I do see a challenge in reality of making sure that we have the cost that we need in 2027 to start design. I think we could probably get like 1/3 of, let me find it up there, the 1.98 million. Maybe we could budget for about 1/3 of that so we can get a preliminary design. By the way, we already have a preliminary concept, so we have something to work off of. Maybe we could budget $300,000 or $400,000 in 27 and hopefully make up the rest in 2028. But you're going to see some other stuff for 2027 that you'll want to weigh against what will be a significant cost to do a portion of that design in 2027. So just want to bring that reality to the forefront, but that's something that we can work through if we want to start taking bigger bites at that design apple in 2027.
And I'm gonna take all of this back and put it into, my spreadsheets and look at it, just give recommendations and tell you what I think we could do, with the 2027 budget, and then the projections out from there, you'll get those as well. So with that noted, we can work it, we do our best to do what we can with that, so.
I just think it makes more sense to use the taxpayers' money toward a public safety facility and a 1 cent sales tax incentive for the library and senior center that other people are coming to our community for. So I agree.
I think we could even do a 1/4 or a 1/2 cent on the library / senior center. So.
Well, it doesn't preclude us from working towards getting those things done as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just,
Priority.
I think it's a priority, and sooner the better.
I always
Go
like
ahead.
to, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. I
Sorry.
always like to ask for some clarification on the numbers. So just as you're doing this, I agree with the sentiment that kind of passing them on for the amount of people that come in, or the amount of people that come in even just for our events. We're looking at those numbers. I would like to know on average kind of what that looks like for a family of 4 or a family of 5 when we're raising the sales tax like in the city, just kind of what that looks like for them as well, so we kind of get the cost analysis on that. I know that that's obviously a ballpark number, but I would hate to see an increase like that affect our families in a way that they start leaving Goddard to go, get their groceries or.
Yeah, we would definitely have all that data available prior to a ballot issue. But just speaking anecdotally, if you think about the time and fuel and that kind of thing, I think most people are still gonna be money ahead to shop local when you're talking about a half cent.
Yeah.
You know, on $100, that's 50 cents.
Right, yeah,
Food's
absolutely.
not taxed anyway, right?
Food, that's a discussion for another
Okay,
day.
right.
It is taxed by municipalities,
Okay.
just not the state's portion.
Understood.
So, but that could all change.
Open
This
a
is
can of worms for you.
Yeah, as the folks that were in Topeka last week know, there's a lot of action going on in Topeka right now. We'll see how it all boils down in early April.
So, I was gonna say, the one thing I was gonna also mention was, we're not saying just a police station, we're saying and the court facility.
Right, that whole project.
Something I wanna highlight that, talking with the chief, is on court dates here, the line is out the door. That's what you're saying, it is
Yeah, we see
packed.
it at
We're
the
trying to
salon on
keep up.
Tuesday nights.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's benefiting more than just what we're using the police station facility, but also freeing up the court facility.
I hold video court in my office.
Are you inviting us?
Love that.
What?
I said, are you inviting us?
To video court? Well, I'm not there.
Yeah.
Never been there.
That's scary. If there's a sales tax increase though, that would be something that would be on the ballot, that the community would vote
Yep,
on.
it would be
Is that
their,
correct?
it would
Okay.
be their choice.
Okay.
Yep.
Alright, I've noted that change, we'll update that and then, alright, so moving on to the next section is our parks and street project updates. Starting with our North Park Community Enhancement Project, we've increased this on our sheet from last year from 5.0 to 5.9 million. That was because we added in the pond and walking trail restoration. But we were able to put some better dollars in for the grants that we feel pretty confident we're gonna get this year in 2026 of 1.2. So those numbers have been updated. The Meads Park Playground Project, we budgeted around $150K for that project in 2025, but it didn't get completed, so we're just gonna go ahead and push that out to 2027 since we feel like we got plenty of park projects to do and things to do at this point. So we're just gonna push that out just a little bit.
Brooke, could I make a note on North Park real
Yep.
quick, if you don't mind? So conversation on North Park will really be heating up over the next 30 to 45 days. I just want to be really clear that we would not recommend authorizing the the full amount with all the ad alternates without having contractual obligation on the $1.2 million in grant funds. About 2 weeks ago, the state told me that within 30 days we'd have the grant amendment in front of us, and they told me that they're already setting up the funding streams, and they gave me lots of confidence that it's nothing to worry about. So at any rate, sometimes the bigger agencies, it's a big ship, small rudder, it can take a little bit of time, but we would not be making a recommendation in excess of that original budget amount without having that grant amendment contractually obligated.
Street projects, the 5 and 5 major street program that's in place. In 2025, I increased it, just to give you actual numbers. We ended up spending 1.3 versus 1 million, so we're actually kind of ahead in the 5 and 5 program at this point in time. Went ahead and used $1 million going forward, and we're gonna try to stay within $1 million of that. One thing to also remember is when we do that 5 and 5 program, we are also bidding out the annual street maintenance piece of that as well, which is usually about $250,000 at this point in time. So they kind of get put together there. The Crown Drive Growth and Roundabout projects, we combined those two projects, the Crown Drive and a roundabout that we had on the list. We had that separated, so we combined that into into one project. And again, we added in that 10% of the engineering and design cost, and it's estimated to be in 2029. Downtown beautification and streetscape, we've moved that out a year from 2029 to 30. Added in 200K for design and engineering. And again, that total project cost there in 2030 will be about 1.9. We don't really have, I mean, that was kind of in the works right now. I know you guys have some committees that are kind of working through all the logistics of that. That's kind of a more long-term project that we have on there. The roundabouts at 183rd and Maple, still planned for 2029, but again, we added in our engineering and design costs in there as well.
Brooke, I want to throw some more comments in. I'm sorry to keep
No,
interrupting. These three projects, so the 5 and 5 is really quite firm. We've even got the roads pretty much scoped out all the way through the end of it. That could change it a slight degree. But the Crown Drive growth and roundabout project, that is very much so contingent upon acquiring either access management funds from KDOT or funding from Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, WAMPO, whichever would come first. We have all the traffic data on the 199th and US 54 TEEP study. The engineers working on putting together some recommendations and compiling that data. I think one of the options that leadership has identified through conversations with some of their council is that potentially one of the solutions, instead of investing money to improve 54 and 199 on all four corners, maybe the Crown Drive extension is the project you go after. It would be a bigger bang for your buck, especially if KDOT would be willing to pay for it, or WAMPO, since it is such a regional project. When you consider the freight component, when you're tying it into the industrial road, when you think about the tons of out-of-town visitors to the school district there on Pawnee, the roundabout is on Pawnee and Crown Drive, and then again, regional connotations when you discuss the access to the Genesis Sports Complex in the Starbond District. WAMPO and KDOT want to fund projects with regional impact. The roundabout at 183rd and Maple, the county has really turned the heat up on the discussion regarding pavement of 183rd between Maple and Central. And so they're actually going to start designing perhaps this year. We've had lots of conversations with them about timing that project up so that we could get economies of scale, a cheaper roundabout if we are lumped into their contract for both design and construction to pave 183rd from Maple to Central. So you could see some variability. That 28 may become 29, or it could, we'll see how that 29 may become 28, excuse me. We'll see how that kind of shakes out. And the downtown beautification streetscape project is really driven by whether or not the downtown stakeholders are willing to put some skin in the game, because we don't have about $2.1 million. I don't anticipate having that funding available in 29 or 2030, from what I can see today. There's several different opportunities for community improvement district out on retailer sales tax, transportation development district out on retailer sales tax, tax increment financing, perhaps some grant dollars, but that project probably doesn't happen without some skin in the game with the downtown property owners. Not saying they're going to foot the bill, but if we want to get this to a mode where it's actually capable for us to do it around 29, 2030, there's going to have to probably be some skin in the game, because I don't really see a source of revenue for that project at this time.
And what do you mean by scanning, and what are your just off the cuff thoughts?
So
not holding you to a candle, I know that.
So I mentioned the community improvement district and the transportation development district. That would require an additional 3 cents per every dollar spent downtown being collected to help pay for this project. Tax increment financing is a method of financing capital projects where the increase in property value above the current baseline, so what the current property values are, would be reallocated towards helping finance the project. So there would need to be some skin in the game, and maybe the Main Street Committee and the downtown property owners say, that's just too much skin, we can't put our pound of flesh in, and so then it probably gets pushed out to the end of the CIP, or maybe the 2034 to 2045 CIP.
I just want to, I guess, make a note on this from someone who, does a lot of the community events and enjoys downtown, and just joined the Main Street Steering Committee because I think that it's got so much potential. I would really like this to maybe go in front of that committee sooner rather than later, and it doesn't have to be like right this in the next couple meetings, but just sooner rather than later, because I think you have a lot of great people in that committee who, if someone's going to write, for a grant or someone's going to do it, you've got a few people in there, you've got some of the businesses that are in there as well, but also, and I know obviously we're talking pennies on the dollar when we think what our community events bring in, but I think Danny, just in what she's done in her first year and what we've done with Fall Fest and other things, what that potentially could look like in the future, I think our community events have some skin in the game there as well. We really want to not have to mark every single time we have an event with chalk in our hands, and having a beautiful, clean, even road I think is really important as well. So I think that there's some skin in the game per se to be passed around, and just maybe what that would look like if we discuss what it would look like to funnel from those things, or get the Main Street Steering Committee to start looking at some grants sooner rather than later, even if we had to do little bits at a time and we weren't then funneling that to just the businesses on Main Street.
Absolutely. I think the capital stack that funds this will have to come from quite a variety of sources. Hopefully grant funding is a consequential amount that can help support it. And our Main Street Committee is really doing a lot of heavy lifting on getting its bylaws and its vision and mission and all that. I would say by second quarter we could probably take a closer look at this, because that'll give us a few more meetings under our belt to really get organized. And I appreciate the governing body members who are contributing time and effort to that, such as yourself.
Well, to piggyback on that, we're getting ready to start our comp plan, which should really feed into all of this, right? And by the end of this year, when we get that in place, it should complement what the Main Street Committee thinks is important. It should complement what we think is important for the police station and municipal court. So I think all is coming together in the same year. This might look a little different at the end of this year, but we'll have a more solid plan and everything in place to help back why we have some of these things budgeted in the later years.
Yes. Things will continue to get more clear as we advance through these 10 years and continue to engage the community and figure out what our financial capabilities are and what the taste is for paying for some of this stuff.
Next section is our sewer and stormwater projects. 5 and 5 partner sewer main upgrade on the CIP schedule. We had it listed for $75K, but I actually budgeted $100K when we did our budgeting. So we just kind of upped that because I think that's more realistic of the cost that's going to be associated with that. A new project was added to the CIP for 2027, and this will be something that we will also talk about again during the budget planning sessions we have, but it's a wastewater treatment plant strategic capital improvement program, estimated at around $77,000 for 2027. I don't have a description, but if Jason wants to give a description of what that's all about.
So
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, no big deal. So the strategic capital improvement program for the wastewater treatment plant would be something along the lines of looking at what our current facility is and gauging what needs to be done in the future. And also that, if I remember correctly, I had asked also about an operating and maintenance program as well, so that we can have a further idea of the systems of that treatment plant to allow us to have further ideas of how to run it more efficiently than what's being run now. So it really is an overview of the plant to give us an idea of what needs to be done and what we can look at for those future costs, as well as how to better operate the plant as needed.
It's coming up on 15 plus years old, so some of the original equipment is starting to show its end of life, and Jason's done a great job of getting a cost together to what it looks like to start replacing some of that equipment into its next life cycle.
It's important.
And you would be looking also at the possibility of what expansion of that, because I know it was expanded once.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's something we can bring up as the plan's being developed and looked at, because yes, with the growth that we're having, that is always something we need to be looking forward to.
Our water projects, Let's see here, our partner water main upgrade. So this is just sort of kind of confusing, and I don't know.
I'll help.
Yeah, well, I know you
Yeah, yeah, so there's been some vacillating with the water main project. So, in 2025, I should say 2024, we did a significant amount of water main replacement. We call it the partner because it was the mains underneath the roads that we've been replacing as part of the 5 and 5 Street program. We are financing the cost of the 2026 waterline projects within the water looping temporary note, because there's a lot of pressure to try to do all that in-house with the street contractors coming in right behind. So the $267,000 is a line item within the water looping projects, and then staff will be completing the 2027 partner projects in-house, but they'll be doing that this year. So that's what's going on there. I might have got that backwards too. The 267,000 is going to be paid for this year, buying the material for the water lines that'll go underneath the streets that'll be replaced in 2027. So it is a little confusing, but we promise we know what we're doing. The key part is that we're not just putting in new roads without addressing the stuff underneath it. We're relining the sewer mains, and we're replacing the water lines and getting them out from underneath the road and in the front yard right away. That way, when you have a main break, you're not digging up a brand new road. And you shouldn't have a main break anyways, because the lines will be new. And all the lines in Old Town are 60, 70 years old. They're old transite pipe, and they're probably past their useful life.
And when we did the 2026 budget, you might remember we didn't have any capital projects really coming out of either the water or water reserve fund. All of the out of the operating there. So what he's talking about, what Craig's talking about, is financed with the temp note for the water looping. So we really don't have any capital projects per se for the next few years, just based on that. So, okay. Our smart meter installation and infrastructure, we moved that from 2026 out to 2028. That project has increased from about 900,000 to 1.2. So we just feel like we probably need to push that out a little bit, and I think Craig's kind of thinking about timing that with a bond that's being paid off around that time to maybe lump it with another temp note to cover the cost of that. But I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there and readjust, probably make sure those costs are still what we expect them to be.
Do we expect that all to come out in a single year?
That would be the plan. So we have a general obligation bond that matures in 2028. I think it funded one of the above ground tanks. It may have been the distribution line from the wells one, or both. At any rate, that clears up about $85,000 a year worth of debt service capacity that we would plan to use to finance putting these meters in. The pressure that we're facing here is that what currently is in the ground is becoming obsolete. Software companies love to threaten that they're not going to carry this stuff anymore, and it's going to be a big problem for you if you don't spend a bunch of money to upgrade. They started having those conversations with us about a year and a half ago. We figured out a way to be able to keep it going for the next few years. And I've dealt with before water meter companies no longer supporting their stuff, and now you're having to work through third parties and find people who know how to fix it, or where you can go get the material. So we do need to get it all done at once within the next few years, and so we're hoping that we can do it in 28, and the cost won't grow further past that 1.2, and we would likely bundle that with financing the cost of the area well expansion for the Everly Trails well project, and then the distribution line to that well site. So you're looking at, we'll be contemplating a $2.5 million worth of debt around 2028, 2029 out of the water utility, supposing that we can afford it. I answered your question in a really long roundabout way, so hopefully there was an answer in there somewhere for you.
There was, but at least we had another question.
Yeah.
Where does the estimate for the area well expansion project come from? Cause you see it increased?
Yeah, so, I wanna say that is partially engineering and design. We kinda looked at doing that all in one shot. And then it's really just the cost of the well itself, which I think digging the well is really an inconsequential figure. It's getting the 15 or 18-inch pipe, whatever size it needs to be, a couple miles away to our water tower and then into the system. So I'd have to maybe have a conversation with Harlan and Jason to remember why that went up. But I think it was engineering though.
I think maybe last year when we put this on the CIP, it was a rough estimate, and I think you got numbers a little closer to what we expected to be now. Yeah.
Harlan, what do you think? Are we in the ballpark?
For the well, certainly. Don't know about the transmission
Pipe.
line. You got the pipe in, that's what you're considering the transmission line?
Yeah, all within that 1.3. So
I think I've got a number. I could maybe go back and see if I can find that. I might put together a year ago or something.
I thought that's where we got this, and then we
Okay.
tweaked on it a little bit. But at any rate, this is why we update the CIP every year as our costs become more clear.
Then we added a new project in the water category, some generator equipment for water well number 4 and number 5. Those are about $125,000 a piece, so we're going to try to spread those out and start planning for those possibly in 27, and then another one in 29.
There's currently no generators in
We have a tow behind that works. We've made some efforts and investments into resiliency for these wells. We when I first got here, they were on the same circuit. The 2 batteries of wells were. We invested in separating them, so if you lose power to one, you don't lose power to both. So we've done that, and we do have a pull behind. I'll also mention that it's not uncommon for communities to be down to 1 or 2 wells while others are being maintenanced or you're fixing an issue that happened to them. So if it's like a mild day or not a July hot day and there's a lot of water being used, you know, we can run the town on 1 or 2 wells. If there is an emergency situation, the contractors are pretty generous about loaning you something off the shelf to get you back online, to get you a fix to a pump or whatever it might be. So, but we would like each well to have its own generator. That way, we can run all 4 at the same time on a hot summer day if we lose power.
So that takes me back to the area well expansion project. Is there a generator in that 1.3 million?
We would certainly not build a new battery wells without a generator. Buy once, cry once, I heard a guy say before, so we would include that in there.
The new section that I mentioned earlier is our developer projects. The purpose of this new CIP section separates growth-related infrastructure from city at-large debt and prevents developer projects from impacting our debt limit. Currently, we have the Maple Tree Addition street, sidewalk, and electrical that we've included. The Rachel Burke Estates, I believe we did that last week, or no, not last week, but last time we were.
Yeah, we've got another step or 2 till we get the temp notes in the bank, but yeah, it's moving along.
Yeah, so that's that one, and then as they come on, we would add these on here. Yeah.
So we're gonna separate.
Yeah. All right, so what is council being asked to approve tonight? Just basically, I made the note of the one change that you have. If you guys have any other changes before the next council meeting, we could probably visit about that. What we would do is probably draft a new CIP for adoption with a resolution stating that, you know, this is our plan for the year. One thing that you should know, this action does not approve construction, final project cost, or spending authority. All projects do come back to you. You can deny them, accept them individually as we always would. But this is just a plan. Bond rating agencies love that we have a plan. It helps with our interest rates and our rating that we receive. So, do you guys have any questions? any other additions or things that you would like to talk about now, I'd be happy to, or like I said, we can visit later and we can make any adjustments before the adoption.
When we come back at the next council meeting, there won't be this whole long process. It'll really just be, here's the resolution with the changes we talked about tonight. You can approve it or not.
Any other questions?
Not any questions, just thank you for taking the time to put these things together and making pretty covers for us.
Well, when we get it all cleaned up, we'll revise the book, and we're starting, if you go to the city website, we're starting to get it on there. So there's 2 projects listed that you can click on. It needs a little work yet, but we're learning how to get them on there. So the comprehensive plan and the Tyler Technology Project, those are on there and they're live. So you can see the costs, where we are, and it will be up to date. North Park's gonna be up real soon. We just gotta iron out some numbers. So.
You can also subscribe to each project. So if you're really interested in a specific project, you hit a button and you'll get an email every time there's an update to the page there about the project.
Or a notification, or there's a meeting, anything we want to do a shout out, we can do that if you subscribe, and then you'll get it.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yes, thank
Don't
you.
use-
All right, Mayor, we're approaching the witching hour, so I will try to be brief here.
We got 23 minutes.
Some of the stuff you guys have seen before. Just a quick background. So when I used to present this, you get a really brief glance at like the 2014 strategic plan and the 2015 comprehensive plan, and then of course the Goddard business plan, which you can still see on the wall over here behind our city attorney. And moving forward, as we get into this year, now we're doing a new comp plan. I'm not referencing those old planning documents anymore. They've really become obsolete. I do still have some reference to the business plan, because we have done some small updating to it over the last couple of goal setting years. I feel personally like it's still relevant to some degree. If you don't, feel free to share otherwise. But the 2026 goal framework, we're going to be looking at the ongoing adaptive goals. Adaptive goals, if you're unfamiliar, it's not something that you can just do with 1 or 2 steps. There's process and variables, and it takes time to get those done. There's some carryover goals from 2025 and then some 2026 action goals. Action goals are some goals you can create in a more compressed timeline and maybe fewer steps than an adaptive goal. The outcome of this is we're hoping that our priorities are reflective of the city council. As you guys drive all of this, our job as staff is to execute your vision. We want to make sure that the initiatives and the issues that are targeted for the year align with what the city council wants. So looking at adaptive goals, number 1, again, this goes with the Goddard business plan, amenities and entertainment, trying to develop that Starbond district, encouraging development of the 54 corridor, identifying and recruiting restaurant and retail brands that align with Goddard's market. I think we did that to some success in 25, and we are starting off hot in 2026. We've got some really awesome projects coming down the pipe that align with that business goal. Next one is high quality parks and recreation. I think we hit the mark on that as well. We did the linear park expansion last year, the trail connectors, the linear park lighting project, and we improved stormwater at Means Park in 2026. It's the project that's been contemplated for over 10 years in our community that finally we're going to put into play with the North Park investment. So we're pretty excited about that. Developing stronger partnerships between organizations that coordinate recreation opportunities and community activities. I'd like to think we work pretty closely with the North Park Ad Hoc Committee in advancing that project. Beautification of public spaces, improving the visual appeal of the community with public art. Certainly something to be desired there. We've applied for the mural grant a few times now, just got released again, so we'll be taking our 3rd crack at it. We know where we score now, so hopefully that'll give us a little better opportunity. Or since this is a priority, if we don't get it this time, maybe the council just wants to move forward with that project, if that's something you guys want to do. Community connectedness, I think that these 2 items will be within the comprehensive plan. Of course, the 10-year CIP is aligned with this. The next one is housing. We've got about 168 Class A apartment units coming online within the Starbond district. I'm proud of the way the council and the planning commission have collaborated a little more closely over the last year or two. There's been constructive disagreement, but also unity. Unity doesn't mean that we necessarily agree to everything, but that we're coming together to discuss it. We've also brought the school district in. We had our first Tri-Gov meeting last year, and we'd like to do that again this year as well. Infill development and upzoning in key areas. There's been some achievement with that. If you've seen, we brought in a new dine-in restaurant that was an infill project, and then we've done lots of changes to the zoning and subdivision regulations. So we're going to continue to try to address that in the years to come. This was a new goal that the council established last year: acquire additional water rights. I think there's a lot to be proud of with this project. About 35 million gallons of additional water rights acquired with our partnership with the Rural Water District. We have acquired about 137 million gallons of additional water rights to the Everly Trails Edition. That's already been secured by the state. The testing of the new well, they drilled a test well over the last few weeks. So far, those are showing positive signs. We'll have some samples back here in the next few days, I think, to know. But everything that they've seen so far is indicating that we should have good water there. And then we had acquired about 42 million gallons over our existing wells, but it was only for 2 of them. So we wanted to go back and try to get that additional, I think it was 45 additional over all 4 wells. And when we did that, this created a little bit of a setback. They're asking for a little more paperwork than they did the first time through. So Harlan is given that his best shot, and we're trying to help him to work through the state. So we had success getting that 45 million gallons. What was it, 18 months, 2 years ago? We actually went to Topeka. But again, there's been a small setback with that one, but I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be too big a barrier to climb. Here's some of the carryover projects from 2025 to 2026. Do you guys have any questions about any of these? Okay. I think all of it's advancing nicely. A lot of it's in construction. We have groundbreaking scheduled on some of this stuff. Here's a continuation of those projects, carryover from 25 to 26.
Did the park get done in that housing addition?
No, they're working on putting together that right now. So they think they found the piece of equipment that they like to put in there. We have a grant out to KDHE that will pay for the bench and picnic table. So, I mean, we only approved that a couple of months ago, and weather just hasn't really allowed for it quite yet. So, I would think that would be a really good spring project. They'll be doing that in-house and building those new fences around the well house. So, good spring work.
The community center approach, it just says no progress today. I'm just curious, like, if there is a hiccup going on there, or where we're at with that.
So we haven't really budgeted for that project. I think it's something that we could probably handle in-house for a nominal cost and find a line item to plug it in. Jason's working on gathering quotes right now for the Main Street crossing at First Street, another project that's unbudgeted for that we could contemplate completing this year, putting it on the schedule for 27. So we'll have to decide what we want to do with those 2 projects. We're going to get you the quotes and look at doing them in-house to see if it's something that council wants to take down. Brooke and I would look at where maybe we could seek that in if it's a possibility.
He's already shaking her head.
You guys gave her the sash, okay?
Can you describe what pedestrian island and trail crossing is?
Yes. So pedestrian island is basically a hard to describe. A concrete oval in the middle of the street, and there's a little gap there. So when you are crossing the street, you have an area where the pedestrian is safe. We don't have. What's that? Yeah, there's
one on
kind of one at the
54.
Arcut, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of like a median just for pedestrian refuge, so if you cross one lane of traffic and there's another car coming and maybe they don't see you, you have a place where you feel a little bit more safe, so.
this is, where Linear Park in Maine, or where?
We looked at doing one, we're looking at doing one at, First and Main Street, we wanted to do one at Walnut, and then yes, at the trail crossing on Main.
It also acts as street calming for traffic.
Yeah.
So if the road is open, you feel more freely to drive faster. If there's a median or signage, very bold, blatant something there, naturally people are going to slow down a little bit.
I think it's nice as well, just because, there are times, you know, I'm leaving Iron Nutrition a time or two, and you go to Claw, but when Main Street is full of cars, I would love to say that I can see cars coming every time, but you can't, and so you're kind of guessing as you edge out there, so I think something that is slowing them down, I appreciate that, so.
Yeah, it's like a small median that has a gap in it where the pedestrian can walk through, but it's right in the middle of the road.
It's great for our kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Probably help people abide by the 20 speed limit too.
Nothing beats natural traffic calming elements. They pay attention to that a lot better than they do a speed limit. So remember that when staff is recommending you narrow the road and maybe move some parking to somewhere else. So it's not usually a popular decision, but it's safer. Okay. Okay, now looking forward to 2026 goals. These are all items that I believe have been budgeted for, that Brooke and I, in consultation with our senior staff, have put together. The splash pad computer system, the current one is shot, so if we wanted to change the hours that the splash pad runs, we couldn't. Luckily, it's still programmed to run at the hours with which it's supposed to be, but there's an issue with that. So imagine the dash on your car that changes the AC and the radio station. It just didn't work, and there were a few other options to make changes. So our park attendant, Alan, he has a new title, so I should have said that. I can't remember what it is, but he's been working to get that project done, so hopefully relatively quickly. We mentioned the Russet Creek playground, the in-house water main replacement, the 5 and 5 partner, several projects at the wastewater treatment plant. We'll have the sewer main relinings, some GIS mapping, and then the in-house fence construction at our water well sites. The next one is our annual roadway from our 5 and 5. So we spend $1 million on roadway reconstruction, and then $250,000 on the annual maintenance, which includes like resurfacing, patching utility cuts, chip seals, slurry seals, crack seals, seam fills, things of that nature. Of course, we approved the emergency operation continuity of operation plan tonight. Then you've got some of the capital projects that are being financed that we talked about a lot. You see some of these other ones that are TBD because they haven't been budgeted for, or we do not have an estimate for them. The Consado / Martin's drainage improvement, I don't consider that to be a project of financial consequence. And we have stormwater utility funds budgeted for that. The Stroot Locker South Mural, it's unbudgeted, but it's an $8,000 project. 4 of it was going to be covered by grant. The other 4 is fairly inconsequential. We could find that if needed. You know about Tyler Tech and ClearGov, so those are all approved and included. This is way shorter than in previous years. There's been direction from council that we want to try to keep it tight on some of the smaller, maybe this is negative to say it, I call them pet projects, but maybe try to focus on just executing on what's already been planned and budgeted for this year. We have some really big capital projects that are going to take a lot of staff time. They're big investments. We want to make sure we get them right. Think about the North Park, the Public Works building, the water looping, we're migrating all of our software to Tyler Tech, the comp plan, the emergency operation program. Those are really big time-consuming projects, so really the focus needs to be on executing those well. So in previous years, we've had slides and slides and slides of goals, and I think we've done a good job of knocking those down. This year, it's 2 slides worth of goals. Questions and council direction? fire hydrants are within the water looping project, so Jason's team has started knocking off as many of those as we can in-house to save on the water looping project, but we're paying for that out of the tip note. So probably saving, I don't know, a third on each of those that he's able to take down before we advertise for bid. Little bit of a concern with that project. We've got 3 easements that we have a little less confidence that we're gonna be able to take down without condemnation. And it's my mistake that I thought that we could do the condemnations a lot faster, but I'm told that it may be another 3 to 4 months on some of those. And so now you're having some pretty significant delay. It's not the end of the world. We've only had this tent note open for maybe a year. We have 3 or 4 years until we're making debt payments. So if the project's done by then, we're fine. Actually, it's just generating interest revenue for us, the more balance that's in there for a longer period of time. So, but it might be might be the second half of the year before we actually have a pipe in the ground for that project. Now, we have a really good consultant that's out aggressively pursuing those easements, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's able to tackle a few of those. And Ryan Peck has done a phenomenal job of putting together individual easement agreements for each property owner who has a different and special request as far as what they would like to see to restore their property. But I received that news today that there could be quite a delay with that project, 3 to 4 months perhaps, because of a few of those easements outstanding.
Just a little time.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world at all.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Well,
Busy, you guys are busy.
Brooke did a phenomenal job, and thank you for the compliment, the senior staff of helping put all this together. So she formatted it beautifully. It looked really bad when I got my first draft done. So, was she shaking her head? Yes.
She's nodding back there like.
She's like, it was really bad.
I did not.
Yeah, she did not.
I did not do that. But it was bad.
With the tear.
She needs her own camera for council, maybe a mic too. Because with that, you've seen The Office, you know, where it just kind of pans over.
We can use the video court camera that's in her office. Do we need to do any tweaking to that document? We'll be back in front of you guys in probably 2 months or 3 to review it and give you a progress update. I try to do that quarterly. Usually it happens about 3 times a year. So.
No, I would just say with us doing the comp plan this year and having a very itemized, clear-cut plan for what we get done this year and do it well, will set us up really well for years to come.
And just touching on that, like, you know, I know that there has been concern in the community of the money that gets spent or approved, and I know that these are a lot of really big ticket items, but I think that everything that we are approving and we are doing works pretty flawlessly together and is going to set us up for a pretty major success in the future. So I just want to, note that.
And it's really getting after what the concerns are when people come in here about our infrastructure and our amount of water as we grow. I think this shows the community, if they're watching, that you guys really are thinking about those things, and not only thinking about them, we're actioning on them, have actioned on them, and are still actioning on them. And so hopefully if they're watching, they can see that it's something that it's very important to the city to take care of that, and you're actively doing that. So maybe it will calm their concerns.
We promise you are being heard. These are conversations that are being had, and I think that everything that we're doing here and the city is doing really hopefully shows up this year. So.
And all of the transparency.
Yeah, that was my end note, but like kudos on that. I love that you can go look at, or you will be able to go look at anything in financials when it comes to that. I think that that's a huge win, so.
You see, huge win, and nothing on that surprised me. Because I feel like we've gone,
we don't like those
we've
surprises.
been talking about all of these things over the last year through the budget process. So when I look at these goals and the things that you've accomplished and are like nothing, absolutely nothing on here surprises me. That's not surprising me because of how well, that you guys communicate and how beautiful the products are and easy to read and all the things. So, there wasn't anything that surprised me on here. Yeah. Thank you for that.
They're pretty great. I don't know what they think about me, but.
All right,
Thank you guys.
next,
Thank you.
next item here. City attorney Ronnie Peck, is that the flag?
Good evening. Good news, I only have 45 minutes.